Welcome into the Hustle Show podcast. I am Drew Martin, joined by Adam Trigger, Bryan Power of WagerTalk.com, and one of my favorites here, Jeff Nadu at Jeff Nadu on Twitter, the big man on campus by some. Guys, a reminder here, we are brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Viva Tequila Seltzer, refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer with 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 4.5% ABV. Viva, the perfect drink for your pregame or postgame celebrations, as it was created with the active lifestyle in mind. If you use the promo code HUSTLE20 at checkout, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com, it takes 20% off your order. I usually show it right now, but guys, I am out. I drank them all earlier this week, so got to head to the store and grab some more, but make sure to check it out there on the website. We got big game breakdowns here, NBA, MLB, maybe some soccer coming to you as well. Going around the horn here, Adam Trigger at Top Flight SI on Twitter. Check him out, wagertalk.com. Trigger, happy Wednesday to you, man. Welcome into the show.
Thanks, Drew. Happy Wednesday. Not that I told anyone that I was sick, but I'm feeling better. Drew, I haven't thrown up. I just have to say this real quick. I haven't thrown up since almost college. I don't get sick. I never get an upset stomach, stuff like that. Last night, I must have got food poisoning or something. It went from feeling fine to throwing up everything in my system 3 different times. And I woke up this morning and feel great again. So I don't know what that was, but I'm back. And I've got a nice little MLB streak going, so I hope to keep it going tonight. But yeah, everything else is good.
All right, man. Sports betting podcast starting off with a little upset stomach, but hey, you're throwing out winners on the diamond. That's all right, Adam Trigger. We got Bryan Power up next, guys. Check him out at wagertalk.com as well. BP, welcome in, man.
Thanks, Drew. One winner in the books. It looks like it's official. West Ham in the Europa Conference League. That's a winner. Nice start to Wednesday. Unfortunately, the Seattle Mariners need to score in a hurry, so we can go 2-0 in the afternoon. But doing great, Drew. Glad to be here. 5% NBA play going up tonight in Game 3. 2 for 2 so far in the finals. And the last time I puked was definitely that Rams-Bengals Super Bowl. Probably the most I've ever puked in my life. I will never ever forget that Super Bowl. I must have puked 20 times over the course of those 4 hours. Just thought I'd throw that out there. It was bad. No. And then I lost the game by a hook too. So that made me puke even more.
That sounds like a terrible evening. Oh man. I guess we could get into that. Bad Super Bowl moments if you want. I got one for you, but I'm going to hold it off. Maybe let's get a little bit of action on today's slate. And guys, we're putting him last, certainly not least in my book. His name's Jeff Nadu, big man on campus, at Jeff Nadu on Twitter. Jeff, the floor is yours, man. Appreciate you taking the time and joining us here on the Hustle Show podcast.
Well, it's good to see you guys. Drew, you and I go way back. I mean, I remember Drew and I was 340 pounds at one point, and I remember Drew and I used to do shows together. We had a great time. Remember Big Man's Buffet, betting buffet, Drew? Remember that?
Oh, yeah. A little late night action.
Ago. I know there's a lot going on with me right now. However, this is the great time to get me on because I've been crushing it. I've hit 15 of 18 overall. I'm on fire in a lot of different sports. So, Adam, you called me at the right time. Happy to be here.
I saw you had a Turkish. I saw you were hitting games in Turkey the other day, Jeff. Baseball games. You're on a nice little run right now.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm in the NBA. I'm in Turkey. I'm in Ireland. I'm in Scotland. I'm in, baseball. I'm even in the New York Post recently. So it's the best. Everything's going right.
Well, Jeff, where should we start off, man? With any big games? If you're all over the place, I mean, should we start off in Europe? Should we start off here on the diamond? Where do you want to go?
Well, I think baseball's such a grind. Maybe we just get that out of the way, right? I mean,
okay.
What do you think? Let's do it.
Yeah, we can do it. I mean, we got some night slates here. Usually the Thursday slates are early, and we do have a couple games already going, one going right now. But the night slate is there. I mean, the Astros and Blue Jays. We got Red Sox, Guardians. We got Tampa Bay. I mean, I'm guessing you're not betting against them if you've won 15 of your last 18, man. It's the Rays or pass for me. What games did you have circled?
Yeah, that's kind of been my feel. One game, well, actually a few games that I had a thought on. I mean, one of which that jumped out. It's kind of back and forth between 9.5 and 10. You want 9.5, you're gonna have to probably play 120. But I'm looking at this quietly. It almost seems like we've forgotten about the Arizona Diamondbacks, but quietly they've been a really good offensive group. this season. You look at Washington. Look, they're not going to blow you away offensively, but I mean, all due respect, these are two pitchers that I don't really have much interest in backing. You have two bullpens here that aren't very good. I know that's a park out there that's kind of more pitcher friendly, but I look at both these teams. I kind of felt like when I looked at this early on, there was some smarter money coming in on it. I mean, Patrick Corbin, I haven't trusted probably ever. He was a guy last year that was horrid. He almost reminded me of hearing Adams throwing up stories when I watched him pitch. Zach Davies hasn't been very good either for Arizona. I just have been quietly impressed with this lineup for Arizona. It's a higher total, but I've seen it's gotten bet up. So I think if you can find a 9.5, I have some interest. One other one, maybe I'll partake a little bit late in Giants Rockies. Logan Webb, I'm a big fan of. But in looking back into last year's performances at Coors, we know Coors can be a bomb box ballpark. He wasn't exactly like unhittable. That's just a place where pitchers go to have trouble, regardless of how good you are. And we've seen pitchers struggle there for years. It's a high one and it's always hard, but Seabold, I'm not really looking to back either. He's not a guy that I'm running to think is going to shut down any lineup either. Are these two of the best offenses in the league? No, but I mean, 11 runs there is like 7 or 8 anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Not looking to, go against you in Coors there. And I'd like your look towards the over in Washington, the nation's capital here. And I actually touched this on the side here, Jeff. I like the D-backs. You were kind of saying some nice things there about their offense. Well, it's showing in terms of their wins, losses. They've won 7 of 9 heading into tonight. And Washington's lost 6 of 8. Something I like to do on the Diamond guys is, hey, ride the hot and fade the cold. So that's kind of in play here on the D-backs. We can get them as low as minus 115 here. So the slightest of favorites as the road team. And Arizona, one of the best teams in the National League record-wise. Heck, if they win tonight and Atlanta loses, I think they will have the best record in the National League. So it's very surprising to this point in the season, Jeff.
I mean, Drew, last night, I'll just kind of throw this out there. I mean, last night, 10-5. I mean, 2 games earlier this season, 9-8, 8-7. I mean, these games have been high scoring. I definitely would lean that way. I guess my kind of thought is, why is this number coming down a bit? But you're going to have a lot of base runners in this game. It could really be defined late in one of those wild, 9-8 type of games or something. I mean, you look at the whips for both these pitchers, there's going to be a lot of base runners. So, I definitely think the Diamondbacks are the lean here. I like the over as well.
Jeff, I want to ask you one question, man. You bring up the line movement and maybe that worrying you. Is that a big part? I mean, you've been doing this for a while. You bring up, we go way back. You've been a better, successful one at that for quite some time. Does that matter to you personally, and does it change per sport?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I see something that just doesn't really look right to me, I mean, look, I'm just going to say it. I don't think I'm foreseeing a lot of bettors coming in and taking a 25 and 35 team. It's just kind of numbers to me. And if I see a game open at where I kind of think it is, and I kind of see it backtracking, yet, it's just kind of all a feel to me. And you're right. I don't bet a lot of like the great teams, the Tampas, the Yankees. I'm kind of looking at grabbing these, like last night I grabbed Boston. Shane Bieber's great, but I just find long-term, I don't really trust in some of his metrics. And, I like that lineup for Boston. I like, kind of their starter last night too. So it's just kind of finding spots. And if I see a number where the whole world's coming in and going to back a team, but the number's going the opposite way, kind of has me wonder a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, speaking of not jumping on the top teams and a team maybe riding under the radar, a guy that likes to do that is Adam Trigger. Trig, you hit that big play on the Brewers. Not that they're a bottom team by any means, but I'm actually looking to go against them tonight. And I know that each night is very different, but I'll throw it over to you, man. What do you got circled on today's card?
Well, Drew, I mean, that's really how I think. Personally, I think that's how you bet baseball, right? Like you're probably like, I'll just give you a good example. For the last couple of weeks, I've sort of been preaching. You can't just bet against the Oakland A's. Like you missed your opportunity to do that, right? Like,
right.
And a lot of people, it's just you just keep betting against this team. They're historically bad. Well, they were off to a historically bad start, but now the market has moved so far in one direction. If you've been doing that for the last week or so, you're definitely down money, right? Like, because of what you would have had to lay in the Braves series. And then, of course, the Pirates series, the Pirates didn't cover the 1.5 in a single game in this series. So you can't just, and it just, the flip side is the good teams that are perceived to be good are always going to be priced where they shouldn't be. So it very similar to what Jeff was saying. And just to comment on, the play Jeff talked about, of course, you guys know I like Diamondbacks was my biggest season win total over. Couldn't be happier with how this team has started. But one weakness on that team, I've watched a ton of D-backs baseball this year. The bullpen, very thin. And if there is one sort of concern for me with that Arizona team, and if they can sustain and continue like sort of the trajectory they're on, it's not the offense, because they've got a ton of team speed. They'll sort of grind out runs. Like they'll get a guy on base, steal, and then they find a way to knock him in. But, the bullpen is an issue. And so that I would actually agree with Jeff. I'd much rather have the over in that game tonight than the Diamondbacks on the side. I guess I'll just kind of go. So I was going to talk about the White Sox in this spot. So just so you guys, it's pretty much common knowledge at this point. White Sox, Yankees canceled. Phillies, Tigers also canceled. So I'll just talk quickly about the Cardinals, because I kind of see a lot of the same things going on in this game. So didn't make my official card, but I do think there's value on the Cardinals tonight. And I guess I'll just give like an overview of what I think I want to do with these teams going forward. Now, I've been sort of beating the drum for the Cardinals all year. They keep making me look stupid on this show, Drew, because I come out and say, hey, this is the week where the Cardinals are going to turn the corner, and then they go and lose 5 straight. But amazingly, they're the only team in the National League Central that doesn't have a negative run differential, yet they're in last place and they're 12 games under 500. The Cardinals with runners in scoring position the last 2 weeks hitting under 200. It's been their issue all year, but they had an uptick in May at one point, and it was because they started hitting with runners in scoring position. So I do think there's value on the Cardinals on the money line tonight, just from the respect that you're getting a plus price. But the Rangers are the other side of that. In my opinion, you have to sell the Rangers right now. You missed your opportunity to bet the Rangers. They've already peaked in value, and they are far and away leading the league with hitting and runners in scoring position. You've got John Gray has looked like Sandy Koufax the last month. This guy is he's a 4 ERA type guy like the past few years. There's going to be regression somewhere. It could start tonight against a Cardinals team that's seen him a little bit. Very well could start tonight, but I couldn't get to the window with the Cardinals for a rated play here, but it's certainly the way I would lean in this game. And if you just want a value play based on like knowing you're taking a good number, Cardinals plus money in this game, in my opinion, is a good number. So I think you could do a lot worse on this slate of games tonight than Cardinals, and they're gonna start winning a couple of these games sooner or later. I think they've lost 4 or 5 in a row. So anyway, going forward, I'm still looking to play on the Cardinals, but even more so, I'd be looking to fade the Rangers, because the market has moved too much. They're priced as the elite of the elite, and I still don't think that this Rangers team, while good, is the cream of the crop. So I'd have to play against them.
I'll also just say one thing if I can. I know Adam touched on like games being canceled. I would have to think this would probably extend into tomorrow as well. And a lot of people say, well, why? Because I'm looking at the radar, there's no rain. I mean, I live in the Philadelphia area. The air is terrible. I mean, it's like you're in a smoky bar or something. These wildfires in Canada are, I mean, I think New York is the most, the worst air quality on the planet right now.
I'm outside of Syracuse, so I live in Oneida. I'm 30 minutes outside of Syracuse. It's awful. I'm shocked it took them so long to cancel that game. I thought they would have just made that decision earlier today.
Yeah.
BP, I know you're up there too, man. How's the weather, and what do you got circled on the card?
Yeah, the weather is, the air's okay. I mean, I guess. It came on the message after I was done. This morning we got the little message like air quality, poor. You wouldn't know by looking outside. It's a nice little June afternoon here in Cleveland. But I'm going to talk about the same game Trig just talked about. I got a wager for you. You don't have to wait very long to hit, hopefully. And it is the Yerfie in Cardinals Rangers. So this is a series where I've had mixed results. I bet both games, Drew. I won with the Rangers Monday. Then I outsmarted myself. I came back with the Cardinals last night, and that lost, even though they jumped out to the 2-0 lead in the first inning. I thought that, honestly, they may have deserved to win that first game, too. They ran themselves out of the 8th inning when they had a chance for the go-ahead run. Didn't score it, and Texas walked it off in the 9th. So we've had a split so far in this series, but I mentioned the 2 runs St. Louis has scored. Oh, by the way, we're still up 67.5 units since last October, so we're doing okay. But speaking of the first inning, I am looking at the Yerfie as the Rangers go for the 3-game sweep tonight. Everybody knows, Trig just hit on it. Don't need to talk. The Rangers offense has been ridiculous this year. They're number 1 in MLB in scoring at 6.4 runs per game. They're averaging 7 per game here at home. Are they going to be able to maintain that over a full season? No. But I think they're capable certainly of scoring maybe tonight at least 1 run in the first inning. And they're going against Flaherty, who is not very good when you look at traditional or advanced metrics. I'd be very surprised if the Rangers went 3 games in a row without scoring a first inning run. And maybe if they do, well, Trig hit on John Gray possibly being due for regression. Check this out, guys. His ERA, 2.59, okay? But his expected ERA is up at 4.31. So there is regression there, as Trig hinted on. And St. Louis's offense, for all their struggles this year, yes, they've struggled with runners in scoring position, but the offense isn't that bad. It's been a lot better at home than on the road, but they're 8th in WOBA, 8th in WRC+. So this isn't a terrible lineup. I think we're going to get, between these 2 teams, Drew, at least 1 run on the board tonight here in Arlington. Bet the Yerfie between the Cardinals and Rangers, I say.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid, my man. Just one inning in, like that. Yeah. Guys, we got best bets coming to you. A reminder, we're brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Hustle 20 at checkout takes 20% off your order. Viva, we flavored our tequila seltzer because flavor, the spice of life, and we like our drinks with a kick just as we like to live our lives. Jeff Nadu, man, have you seen any Vivas there around Philadelphia? Have you had a chance to try these?
Well, the tequila seltzers, the seltzers in general are popping nowadays. I have seen this, absolutely. Great name, too. I love that name. As a man who loves to imbibe at this point in my life, and that could compare to some of the issues I've had with certain throwing up, which I know we don't want to talk about anymore, but I have seen that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Good to see it's actually growing, and more people are seeing it. It's down here in Florida as well. I mean, yeah, the whole throw up theme, I guess it's part of the show here. I mean, you guys were seemed like you could count the number of times you've thrown up. Like during my college years, I couldn't get within a realm of how many times I threw up, man.
If you want to go back to that, sure. Yeah, I was talking about now that I'm in my 40s, I don't throw up so much anymore. Okay. When I was
about a month ago, I threw up. I had 2, champagne will get you, man. It'll get you bad.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, don't drink a lot of that.
That was one of the worst nights of my life. I felt like I was in solitary confinement, and it was rough, real bad.
Yeah, man, whenever I'm at a wedding or New Year's and they start pouring that, Jeff, I just take one and I sip it a couple times and I go back to whatever I was drinking. I don't chug that stuff.
No interest. Not again.
Yeah, for sure, man. Hey, and Big Man on Campus, it's good to see you, bro. Just doing shows with you. Jeff and I, like you said, go way back. I got to ask you, have you started doing any college football prep or NFL? You got anything you want to throw out there? It's starting to tickle your fancy?
I'm pretty deep in the halls of Division I. I think as all of you guys know, whether it's Brian, Adam, you, I mean, this is a 24-hour, 365 a day year thing, and when the national championship comes in college football, I mean, just maybe off for a month, but then you're right back and getting ready for spring. And, with college basketball and this transfer stuff nowadays, I mean, it's just keeping adept as to what's going on and where people are at this point. But, I'm looking, and I don't want to go square, but I will. I mean, I just kind of jump in a little. I mean, Michigan, I'm very excited about this year. We really, I think, are into that sweet spot of Mr. Harbaugh. I mean, we saw there was a possibility maybe you're going to move on from him at one point. They're kind of sick of this 90s style offense, but they've really come into their own. Obviously, they had success last year. And I thought defensively, they'd really take a step back. I'm not talking about they'd be top 50. I thought they'd be like top 20. This is one of the best defense in the country yet again. You're bringing back a high-level quarterback, a great running back in Corum, a great receiver group, a good offensive line. I'm very excited. And with Ohio State, look, I know they always reload, but I think Michigan's going to get into one of those really good sweet spots. And I know we're talking about a top 14, but I'm really excited about this group this year. But yeah, talking about football gets you excited. I mean, it's not too far off, Drew.
Oh, no, not at all. And I'm just doing like surface level handicapping here on the Wolverines. Yeah. I mean, you got to go, 9 weeks before. I mean, I always try to go are they going to be favored? Are they going to be you get pretty far into the schedule before, they'll be playing competitively priced games, right, Jeff? I mean, they don't play Penn State until November 11th and then Ohio State November 25th. Outside of that, man, it's like Bowling Green, ECU, UNLV.
That was their schedule last year too. I mean, I looked at the schedule and I said, where does the loss come from? And I kind of just highlighted, as all of us will kind of do, that last game of the season. And they have owned that series the last couple of years. Yeah, that was my thought when I looked at this group. And, again, Ohio State's always going to get, and have great high-level talent. But, I mean, Harbaugh's really impressed me. I wasn't the biggest fan of his for a while, but he's definitely zoomed in on what I thought he would be.
BP, I see the Michigan jersey there. Yeah. I feel like you got to throw something in.
Wait, Brian, are you a Michigan guy? Are you in the Ohio part of Michigan territory, or what's the deal there?
So I grew up. I like the fact, my dad is not from Ohio originally, so I didn't necessarily grow up with loving the Cleveland sports teams. And Cleveland, once Ohio State got good, everyone in Cleveland jumped on the Ohio State bandwagon. But that was when I was growing up, Michigan beat Ohio State every single year. And it was actually basketball that got me into Michigan, the Fab Five. I was in grade school when the Fab Five came. So that drew me naturally to Michigan. I just started liking the football team as well. But yeah, Michigan, I've tried to get fandom out of it almost entirely. Sure. But yeah, I always still get fired up when Michigan plays Ohio State. And last year was just a beautiful thing, and so yeah, it's good stuff. But I wanted to say to Jeff's point about the schedule. I know they at least had one game scheduled. I don't know if it was a home and home, but they had something with UCLA. I know at least last year that got canceled, Michigan, and that's why they wound up with Connecticut on the schedule. Yeah. I believe. So I can't remember if that was a home and home, but that might be why the non-conference is weak again this year.
I think again for us bettors, it's well, great. That'll just mean I think probably a big spread and one that I love laying big numbers. I mean, Drew, that I'll lay. I've laid huge. I will just say one other thing. Stanford is going to be horrid. I mean, that's a bad football team. Yeah, I mean, they may not win a game. I mean, you look at the schedule. I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't beat Sac State. Sacramento State's a good FCS team. I mean, you got to go to Hawaii right out of the gate. I mean, that's just a brutal first game. So, I think they'd struggle.
Don't sleep on FCS teams covering numbers against teams like Stanford either. That's a great bet at the first couple weeks of the year every time.
I wonder what the spread's going to be for that, though. We're not the only 4 people thinking about it in the world.
Sure.
Well, I think
in the room.
I remember a couple of years ago, this is probably the memory, 2016, ECU played North Carolina A&T. It was very good. They were 6-point favorites, lost the game outright. And Drew, I think I remember we did a panel, you and I, me, you, and Joe Lisi, of all people. And I said that game, and I always remember that. Adam's dead right. There's a lot of upsets in those games because the really bad Division I teams – they're not that much better than these top level FCS teams. Yeah. So
you can circle an Iowa team to not cover against an FCS team every year.
South Dakota State,
yeah, pretty much every year.
Yeah, I don't know why they schedule those games. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I also think there's a D1 AA or whatever they're calling it now, making a jump up. I think Jacksonville State, a couple others, and some of those when they make the jump up do really well. So that's another thing to kind of watch here. And Jeff, one thing I remember from our past shows, man, is the armies, the navies of the world. I used to always go against them, and you were the person that put me onto that. And sure enough, a lot of times they're money makers. You go back the last 5-10 years. Yeah.
I think if you're a gambler, you have to kind of respect. I mean, you should always respect the military, but you should surely respect the military schools when it comes to football betting. I mean, it is they're just more prepared a lot of the time. They go through routines. It's, they don't make mistakes. They're always very low penalty wise. They're just dependable a lot of the time. But you find those things over the years. You just kind of stick to them. But yeah, it gets you going when you talk about football, doesn't it? It's exciting.
Especially as underdogs too. Like that's where if they're getting more than one score I remember, what was that bowl game last year? Did Air Force play Baylor or something like that in a bowl game last year?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember
Baylor got killed. Baylor got killed, right? Yeah.
I had Air Force because I was like, I was to your point, Drew, you're talking about the college days. I was in college once too. It's like, who would want to prepare for that Air Force offense in like a one-off bowl game if you're in college and it's like right before Christmas? Like, my TED Talk, Trig, just quit. Just throw in the towel and don't try. And that's what Baylor basically did. Why are they going to why in a one-off game are they going to work on defending the triple option? Right. So that's the thing.
I'll just throw this out there for anyone curious about this. Since 2013, 10 years. Okay. Now again, I will bring this up because it involves the Naval Academy. Naval Academy is the best against the spread team in the country. 73-51.
No way.
So
wow.
I believe it. I believe it.
You have JMU above them, but the sample size, 120 games, Navy.
I love that stat, Jeff. Yeah. I mean, preparing for it, the kids don't quit. They don't make many mistakes. It all kind of is coming together. Yeah. And shout out to at Jeff Nadu on Twitter, putting that, at least me on it many years ago, making a little bit of money.
And they slow the tempo down too. Obviously, they limit possessions. That's the hard thing. Yeah, they just hog the ball. They have the ball.
It'll be interesting to see, going off that point, because they fired Kenny Amatololo's gone now, which is he's been there forever. So I'm sure they won't divulge much away from that, but it's interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And to your Stanford point, Jeff, one thing I remember their old coach, talking about it, the transfer portal has affected different teams. It's a little tougher on the Stanfords of the world, because when kids are transferring, they can pretty much, if you want to go to, the big schools out there, you can just go to them if they'll accept, if you can play football at that caliber. However, it doesn't work the other way around. Not every transfer can get into Stanford and those type of teams. So it's really affecting them in a negative way, the really high academic universities like that.
We saw that in basketball with, there's so many recruits now. There was Caleb Love, who was going to go to Michigan. He couldn't get in academically, so he left and went somewhere else. But you're right, the rigors of that. It's also not exactly the sexiest school to play for, is it? I mean, you have Brian, or what was his name? David Shaw was kind of stuck as well in the 90s with how he played football. So, I mean, you would much rather go to UCLA, USC, even San Diego State nowadays is a decent program. So,
and Stanford gets no one shows up to Stanford. There was a couple games last year. They had 3,000 people in the stadium, so they have no home field advantage. It's it's not a good situation.
I think they're academic schedules on some weird thing, because isn't school not in session even the first couple weeks of Stanford? I think that's the problem. Where the kids aren't even on campus the first couple weeks. I could,
and
be
that's
wrong,
the problem that Cal has as well. They're very similar too. Their schedule academically stuff, and also if you're going to go to the Pac-12, you want to go play for Deion Sanders maybe, or it's hiring a guy from Eastern Washington, which is who they hired. Again, cool, but you're going to get those types of athletes, the kids that weren't good enough to play in D1. And you're going to have trouble for a season or two. This is, again, why hiring coaches is the most important thing in college sports. It's the culture. It's the way they do things. It's the recruiting. It's so important compared to pro stuff.
And you even brought it up, Jeff. I feel like I have to ask you, Coach Prime, Colorado, what's their win total at? 4? Any thought? You got to have something, man. You got to have some feeling on the Buffaloes.
Well, see, the thing that I have a concern about is, are they actually getting the best talent at this point, right? Because we saw a lot of kids leave there. And I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders isn't the real deal, but, I mean, we'll see how he measures up. It's not going to be something I'm going to bet preseason. I mean, I might bet them from game to game if I see kind of it's working there. But, when I look at LeBron James Jr., I think if his name was LeBron Smith, I think he'd be a 3-star player. It's just that simple. I think the fact that Shadir Sanders is Deion's kid, I think maybe his value is a little bit higher than it should be. And I wonder how good he is. And this is stepping up to the big leagues. It's the SWAC against the Pac-12 now. So we'll see. I wouldn't bet it preseason. I'm sure, Brian and Adam would agree.
Yeah, that's such a huge
well, they're going to be
difference.
inflated. They're going to be a public team. They're going to be Colorado's going to be a public team for the first time in forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which
until they're not, though. That's the thing. Like, until they're not, right? Like, if it doesn't work out and all of a sudden they come out and they're just losing, like, and losing, like, at some point people are going to jump off, and then there's probably going to be value there. So you just have to,
like the first couple of weeks of the season, like TCU, I mean, that's tough. Nebraska, I mean, they're better than they've been in years past. I would not be interested, and Brian and Adam are totally right. I'm not laying points with them. If they're a dog mid-season, maybe. But like, as Brian said, they're going to be way overvalued because all this stuff that doesn't matter is going to seep into the brains of people out there. This is still a really horrific football team. And a lot of those kids, maybe they're gone, but it's still going to have trouble chemistry-wise and all that stuff. So, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what they're saying.
And one thing looking at their schedule, Jeff, is like you said, TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State, Oregon, USC, Arizona State. Like half of their schedule, what I'm getting, it might not be the toughest, but what it is it's all competitive, meaning like they're difficult to figure out. I totally agree with you on like how talented are they. But the thing is, if they aren't that talented, all of those teams are at least decent. So they might go 0-6. However, if they are really talented, they might go, I don't know, 5-1, 4-2, something like that.
There's also a major problem with win totals with this group as well, because when you bet a win total, let's say 3-4, you need those gimme games. You need the Gardner Webb, the Jacksonville State, even, like they'll get a win against like, I don't know, I'm sure Cal and groups like that. But, Oregon State is significantly better than they've been in years past. I mean, a lot of these teams, there's no gimme games in this non-conference schedule here. I mean, you got TCU and Nebraska. That's Big 12 and Big 10. That's rough. So you don't have it. He definitely didn't do the team any favors. He didn't schedule, Mississippi Valley State here like he probably could have.
God, I want to bet against TCU every week, though.
Yeah.
This year, let's do it. Let's do it all again for fun one time after they kept screwing me over in the end of the games last year. But
they screwed everybody over.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, college football, it's always fun. Like you said, Jeff, get you pumped up. Guys, we got best bets coming up for tonight's slate. But plus, I guess we got to hit on the NBA Finals game here, game number 3. I think Bryan Power has something. But Trig, we haven't gotten the talk time from Trig like we normally do, man. I'll throw it over to you. Final thoughts for the show, best bets, anything you want to throw out?
Drew, some people would appreciate that. So, but that's okay. I have I'll give my best bet. Korean baseball. Like, this is why I do Korean baseball, right? I feel like I have an edge here. It's like Jeff was talking about if he tells me that he's got a soccer game in Ireland, I'm not even going to ask questions. It's just like I know he's probably ahead of that. And I like to think that I stay ahead of it in Korean baseball as well. Had a 14-3 Korean baseball run snap this morning, so hopefully we're getting back in the win column. This will go tomorrow morning. This is Thursday morning, 5:30 a.m. Eastern time. And this is one of my client plays. This is a 4% play for me. I am on the Lotte Giants. And this has moved a little bit. I gave this out at -135. I think it's up to -150. I would still bet it there. Some names you're going to recognize. Dan Straley on the mound for Lotte Giants. He started to pitch. Yeah, he started to pitch much better than he did at the beginning of the season. So he's actually been over in Korea for a while. And he started to turn a corner as far as this season is concerned. Really good last time out. He's averaging close to a strikeout per inning, on the year now. And I think he probably navigates this KT Wiz lineup without much issue. Anthony Alford, another name that you might recognize from his time in Major League Baseball. He's still hurt. He's still out. And even though KT's on a little bit of a winning streak, I just not having Alford in the lineup against what we call an import pitcher, right? It's one of the foreign-born pitchers that are typically former Major League Baseball players, can be tough. That can be a difficult thing because that's one of the guys like Straley can overpower guys, especially like some of the, guys like, let's say 6 through 9 in the lineup. A guy like Straley is going to be able to overpower them. So not having Alfred in the lineup for KT puts them at a big disadvantage. On the other side, Lotte is going to get back Zachary Rex, former Texas Ranger. He spent some time on a couple different big league teams. He's been one of the better hitters over there. Definitely one of the best hitters on Lotte's team. And now, he came back over the weekend from a couple weeks of being out with an injury. But not only is he a great hitter, but he's a great left-handed hitter. And I really think that that's key for this matchup. So I do a Twitter Spaces with my friend Freddie. We're actually going to do it later tonight. And we've hit a lot of these points the past couple weeks. But Jae-Sung Bae is, if you listen to my Spaces, is a guy I've mentioned a couple different times, where from 2029 to 2021, he pretty much he pitched as good as he possibly could have for his skill set, meaning he had a whip in the 1.4 range, but he kept his ERA under 4 and just with extremely good like BABIP luck, like runners in scoring position, not scoring. He's not a guy that has like unreal sort of like strikeout stuff. So I look at that and I can only think one thing. Guy got really, really lucky, was on some really good teams that played really good defense. This year so far, 4.57 ERA, 1.68 whip. That's kind of what I expect him to be for his stuff. And I don't think that really gets any better, especially because this is going to be the third time this season Lotte has seen him. And as you guys know, in Major League Baseball, the familiarity thing is huge. There's only 10 teams in Korean baseball. So it really, if you just don't have deception or you're a one-trick pony, right? Like when teams start to get to see you 3-4 times, it's really tough if you're not like a guy that can go to your second and third pitches. And that's what I think we have here. Lotte knocked him around last time, and now their lineup is healthy. And Lotte is second in the KBO. They're averaging 4.61 runs per game. A good offensive team. And then not to mention, this would be the third of 3 games in this series. So Lotte is going to be trying to avoid a sweep here. The first 2 games were very close, and KT really burned through their sort of high leverage bullpen arms in those games. So I love how this sets up for Lotte. I think Straley is far and away the better starter. Lotte is now healthy. I think they're going to knock around Bae because he's just, I don't think he's a great pitcher, and they've done it in the past. And I think you're going to get the better, high leverage arms from Lotte. They're trying to avoid a sweep. I agree with the line move. I would still play it even at minus 150. I fully expect Lotte to win this game, and hopefully we're back in the win column in KBO.
Adam Trigger, straight off 5% winner last night. Speaking of 5% winners, they're up and available for tonight. And Bryan Power in with one at wagertalk.com. Brian, any best bets for the show and final thoughts here, man?
Yeah, let's go from Korean baseball to the Champions League. We're you never know what's coming here on The Hustle. And this is a play I gave out this morning with Prez and Teddy on Wager Talk today. And guess what? I still like it later in the afternoon. We're taking a look at Inter Milan plus 1.25 goal in the final here. I want to talk about how this match is priced relative to some of Man City's previous matches. For those who are unfamiliar, less familiar with soccer, Man City is trying to do something that has not been done in nearly 25 years. That is win the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League all in the same year. It's called the treble. They've already got 2 of them. They won the Premier League. They won the FA Cup last weekend. Now they got 1 more to go in the bank. And so, of course, they're priced high. They're north of minus 200 for this match on the 3-way line, which is higher than they closed at home against Bayern, higher than they closed at home against Real Madrid, and it's higher than where they closed at a neutral site, Wembley Stadium, against Man United last weekend. I know United took some late money, but City still ended up winning 2-1, and I know that 1 goal was kind of a gift penalty from VAR, but Inter, guys, I think, is as good as those other aforementioned teams, and they're not being priced like it. I mean, the Opta power rankings, I'm not saying we need to go up to the top of the mountain and chisel this in stone, but they've got Inter top 3 in the world right now, like right on level with Bayern Munich. So Inter should not be where they're at on the 3-way line. And so it's opened up a chance where we can get a goal and a quarter. I'll explain what that is for those who may not know in a minute, but none of those other sides, you could get more than a goal on the spread. So I like Inter plus the spread here. I do not see them losing inside 90 minutes in stoppage time by more than a goal. I think they can, quite frankly, force extra time. So it would be level after 90 minutes plus stoppage time. They didn't win Serie A, but this was, to me, down the stretch, the best team in Italy. They won 11 of 12 overall, outscoring the competition 29-9 on aggregate. The only loss during that stretch came with a rotated squad, meaning they sat starters because they were sandwiched in between the Champions League semi and the Coppa Italia final. So I think this is a bargain to get more than a goal with Inter Milan, who is probably the second best team. I mean, this is the biggest match in Europe, and I mean, you could make an argument they're the second best team. City's obviously number one, but City, I think fitness is an issue because they played a meaningful match, obviously, over the weekend against United in Wembley. Well, Inter, they had a backup goaltender, and it was just a ho-hum victory against Torino in the league. So I like Inter plus a goal and a quarter. That means it's a half win if they do lose by one goal, but I don't think they're going to lose by one goal inside 90 minutes of stoppage time. I think it's level. Take the goal and a quarter with Inter. That's the best bet.
Thanks for that, Bryan Power. Trig, if you don't mind, when you're doing all that with your papers, if you could just press mute. No,
sorry.
It's all good, man.
I'm on a different mic. I think I have different headphones than I usually have because my earbuds died, and I think this mic is picking that up. So sorry about that.
No, it's all right, man. As we head from the continent of Asia to the continent of Europe and now to North America, guys. I'm getting on the diamond here, and it's Fade Corbin Burns Day and the Milwaukee Brewers. If you've been doing that, you've been making a ton of money. Jumping on the Baltimore Orioles, guys, about plus 125 right now. Corbin Burns, look, former Cy Young winner. His strikeout rate is down, FIP and ERA up. He hasn't been the same pitcher really at all this season. And jumping on the O's, second best team on the road with a 20-11 road record. And hey, Milwaukee, at the top of their division, however, a minus 20 run differential. Therefore, I think it's the wrong team favored here. I'm on the O's plus the 125 here for my best bet. So we're trying to go around the globe here, Jeff Nadu. Not sure if you got anything else off the radar, man. But hey, also the floor is yours if you want to any final thoughts here for the show. Big man on campus, Jeff Nadu. Have at it.
It's great to come on with you guys. It's fun. It's nice to just get into some sports talk, betting talk with some really great handicappers. I want to comment quickly on Brian's play with Inter. I love that. I thought plus one at 2.07, essentially plus 107. I thought that was a good play. I think this is a very compact match. I think if Man City scores somewhat early, I think that could be concerning if you're Inter, because Inter's going to just play back. They're a compact group. Barella and those guys will just kind of fade back. They're not going to have the ball much in this game. And I know Brian mentioned that, Serie A, they also, I think a lot of people will say, well, they got crushed by Napoli late in the season. Remember, Gagliardini got sent off in the 41st minute. That kind of opened that game up late. But I thought they played pretty well, even down to 10 men. Thus, I think they're still a really good team. They're great defensively. And it's tough to go up against Man City, but I kind of look at a draw in the first half. I could definitely see this game 0-0 at half, plus 140. I'm just going to kind of throw it all out there and assume this game is 1-1. I think Man City will likely win in extra time or in penalties, but I think Inter's really good. I agree with Brian. I will say best bet-wise, I'm going to go back to the well again with Bam Adebayo over points rebounds in this series. I just think it's pretty simple. Denver, while great team, they're just not very good against opposing bigs. And that's been made clear by Bam Adebayo's stat line. This is his best offensive season of his career. And I know a lot of people are going to point to the fact that he wasn't very good in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think Boston did a much better job than Denver's going to do. You look at Bam, he's jumped off the floor, literally. I had him in game one over. I thought this number would be probably like 30-31. It's 28.5. I think he's just really good. He's a great rebounder. I think he'll probably get around 10 in this game. And you look at Jokic. We know he's great offensively, but again, they're just not very good against opposing bigs. Jimmy Butler said if they win this title, it'll be because of Bam Adebayo. I think Bam has another big game tonight.
Jeff, any feeling on who wins the series, man?
Yeah, look, I mean, I still will lean Denver. I mean, Jokic is just so terrific. I love Jamal Murray. Michael Porter. I, at one point in my career, said Michael Porter was the worst defender I'd ever seen at the NBA level. He's improved significantly on that level. He's still not great, but he's better. I like their supporting cast. I just think they find a way. I thought they've been the best team. I bet them preseason to win the NBA Finals. I think they do it. But I don't think Miami, we know they're not going to go out down without a fight. They've been so good all playoffs. Eric Spoelstra's just the man. But yeah, I'm going to still lean Denver on the series.
Okay. Ski Profit in the chat box. He says what's up. Also, Bam has been cashing assists too. So maybe go that route, guys. We got City by the Bay. Shout out to you joining us live here, guys. Wednesdays, 5 o'clock Eastern time, the Hustle Show podcast, talking all things sports betting. Huge shout out to Jeff Nadu. Jeff, anywhere you want to shout out? Just on Twitter, best way to get after you, at Jeff Nadu?
Yeah, I would say just follow me there. I will say one other thing quick. One of the commenters, City by the Bay, is talking about Haaland is a big stud, we know, for Man City. But remember, Milan struggled with some of the height that Inter possesses in the box. I think Inter will be a very tough team to break down. I think they're going to do the proverbial park the bus type of strategy in this game, not try to get out and run up and down, because if they do, they'll lose this game. And I think Brian would agree with that. As far as following me, though, I'm just getting my ducks in a row right now. It's summer, enjoying my life, and we'll be ready for football. Who knows where we'll be by that point.
Yeah. City's not going to score in the opening 5 seconds again like they did last week, and that was the most preposterous thing ever. I hadn't even turned on the match yet. It was already 1-0, so that's not going to happen again against Inter.
Hey, I will say one other thing before we go. I mentioned Ireland at the top of the show before we came on. That is a league in soccer that I have success with. Shamrock Rovers is the best team, and it's not close in this division. They're playing the worst team in the division. Coming up on Friday, they're playing a group called UCD, which is I forget what that stands for. I don't really care.
I think it's Dublin. I think it's UC Dublin, right?
Yeah, right. UC Dublin, you're right. They've given up 45 goals in, I think, 17 matches. They're horrid. This is one of those games where I feel like you lay the 2.5, check it in 3 hours, and they win 4-0. They're scoring goals for fun right now. And as we talked about before we came on, in these leagues, these good teams are just significantly better than these bottom level groups.
At Jeff Nadu on Twitter. We heard from Trig as well. Bryan Power, end it, buddy.
And just to bring things full circle, I'll tell you what, buddy, you hang out 3 days in Dublin, that's a hard place not to puke. I'll tell you that much right now.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a little of that Vegas hangover when Vegas got the hockey team, and then sure enough, guys, it might be something. Yeah, Temple Bar. That's a place you can have a little bit of fun. And if you don't watch yourself throw up a little bit too much for the theme of the show, boom, 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 we'll be here all night. Now, at Jeff Nadu on Twitter, at Top Flight SI, that's where you can find Trig, and Bryan Power as well, wagertalk.com, 5% plays up and available. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com as well, guys. Our flavors pair perfectly with our artisanal Blanco tequila for subtle and refreshing drinks. Our belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. Again, promo code HUSTLE20 at checkout takes 20% off your order. Check out wagertalk.com. Free plays, premium plays up and available. Best free live odds in the industry. For Jeff Nadu, Adam Trigger, Bryan Power, I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to reply below. Smash that like button. Cash those tickets, guys.